Welcome, everyone, to Creating an Extraordinary You. Two of those words are incredibly special to me. They reflect 30 years of personal growth and working with tens of thousands of clients from around the world. You see, I've discovered that without easy, we go back and repeat old patterns that didn't work back then and they don't work now. Easy isn't just a nice idea, it's essential for being able to move forward. An extraordinary you, it's all about being the whole person that God created you to be without shame, without guilt, without feeling like, I'm just not quite good enough. So let the adventure begin. You see, 30 years ago, when my health fell apart and I worked with a nutritionist to learn how to eat right and how to do supplements, that's what really worked. People came to me then as I started working with them. Well, what supplements do I take? Is this a good one? Is this a bad one? They asked me about what foods to eat, and they made simple changes and got results. In fact, that's what led to the very first cookbook on being wheat free, sugar free, dairy free. It was kind of unique in the market because it wasn't out there 30 years ago. In fact, health food stores were rare. They were kind of strange and they weren't very available. But all of that has changed in the last 10, 15 years. We have seen the world shift. There's so many things that are happening in our world today. We couldn't even imagine those 20 or 30 years ago. It's a faster pace. It's moved faster, 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 faster. And that happens with technology, but also with toxicity increasing. The number of new chemicals today that didn't exist a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and all of our construction materials, it's in our foods, it's in our water supply. We've watched that what I've watched in myself, if I don't really pay attention, and I certainly see it in clients, is they have less margin, less reserves. People react faster and sooner and bigger to all the demands being put upon them. Our food quality has declined. It used to be that we would just look at whether it was just organic or not. Was it farm fresh? But now we're finding that there's so much processed foods. It's become the norm for children to eat fast foods. That was a luxury back when I was growing up. Maybe you went out for fast food once a week or once a month. Now it's normal because people are moving so fast. They're trying to do so much. So what's the fastest way I can put food into my mouth? Not nourishment, food. The internet and social media. It was not that long ago that we had only landlines and then flip phones. And now with smartphones, what we have is the internet, social media. We can be bombarded 24/7. It's changed our posture to be able to do this. It's had a huge impact in so many ways. It's created overwhelm. Overwhelm now is no longer a new term. It's what I hear from clients day in and day out. Cheryl, I've had it up to here. I don't know what to do about. And they're completely overwhelmed. And that comes with a really big price because overwhelm will, as it increases, so does our stress. And the more our stress escalates, the more the inflammatory process moves throughout our body. It impacts our wellness to create sickness. It increases our sense of pain. It reduces our mental clarity. We can't remember. It impacts our sleep. It impacts relationships. It impacts our performance at work. And it impacts how we use finances and the amount of debt. This is a common problem in today's world. So, as you're looking at navigating in today's world, it truly does require wisdom because wisdom is what's my next most useful step to go from where I am to where I would like to go. You don't want just a map because the map is changing. GPS is constantly changing. We no longer just use maps. We can Google the newest map of the newest neighborhood. Well, you want more than a map. What you want is a person who's been there, is there, has learned how to go beyond it. That's a wisdom coach. As a naturopath for almost 30 years now and a wisdom coach, which I realized was important because just knowing food and supplements isn't enough in today's world. It's understanding so much more and knowing how to apply it uniquely to the individual. You know, many people today are trying to use old tools, tools that I used 30 years ago that were effective back then in that time, in that world. They aren't effective today. People are using self help books. Well, you know, if those work, there'd only be one. And that's not just in self help, but it's the best cookbook, it's the best exercise plan. Those are out there as the best. Well, if they were the best, again, there would only be one. These are old tools. One size fits all. Well, if one size fits all, then when we watched everybody on social media, we would be just like them. And we're not. Any program, any approach it's essential that it is customized to who you are, where you are, and what you've been through. Another old tool is motivational programs. How many motivational programs have you gone to and been so excited and you knew exactly what you're going to do? You had this big, hairy, audacious goal. And then somewhere between 1 to 2 weeks, it all falls apart because you can't manufacture motivation. It's learning it as a lifestyle, working with your brain in a way that works for you. Another old tool is no pain, no gain. We see that at the gym, just push through, push through. Well, as someone who pushed through for years and had a lot of success in school, school was easy, business was easy, relationships not so much, but I knew how to push through. But eventually it cost me my health to the point of a nervous breakdown, depression, and 2 suicide attempts. So old tools are for an old time. What we want are the tools that can help us in today's world, because today's world isn't what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. So, what are some of these new tools that not only have I discovered work for me, they work for clients? They're new tools that I want to bring to you in the easy approach, because the very foundation of easy is that the word easy matters. Whenever you attempt to do something and your brain thinks it's hard or unsafe, doesn't have to be logical because it's this part of the brain that's doing that evaluation. If it looks hard or unsafe, this part of your brain, which we're going to talk about in a minute, will shut you down. It will absolutely sabotage. And once again, you'll go through that 1, 2, 3 week process and then you'll quit and fail. You think the problem is you? It's not. You just didn't understand the value of easy. And also, it's all about working with your brain. Because when you work with your brain and your brain says, oh, that's easy, that's safe, it'll let you discover and create far more than you ever dreamed was possible. Easy and working with your brain are essential in today's world. With all that's bombarding us, if we don't know how to take that and set it out here and have a space that has easy and working with your brain, the next chapter is the same that you've had year after year, decade after decade. So let's talk about the new tools that I'm going to share with you tonight, but also they are built into the easy approach in creating an extraordinary you. I know these work because they have absolutely transformed my life. They have impacted Forrest and our ability to work together. They're impacting clients day in and day out. And many of these tools didn't even exist 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. They're new tools to meet the demands of today's world and life. Neurology. The neurology that is available now wasn't even available 20 years ago. We used to think that at a certain point the brain would just decrease. We now know it's neuroplastic. What does that mean? It can continually change. Learning to work with your brain is now at the height of awareness and knowledge. It's showing up in all areas. It's showing up in the faith community. It's showing up in science. It's showing up in movement. It's essential. We discovered it 5 years ago, and it has revolutionized how I work with clients. And if you're working with practitioners who don't understand how to work with the brain, old tools. What about core motivation? This is equally as important because this is part of what makes you unique. Yes, it's important to work with your brain, but there is a core motivation that's wired into you. And it shows up each and every day, either in a strength or in a weakness. I know with me, Oh, wait, I'm going to share that in a bit. So you hang on, because core motivation could be at the very root of what causes conflict and stress and overwhelm in your life, or the ability to be extraordinary. What about the next tool? Interpretations. You see, our brain doesn't, this part of our brain, which we're going to talk about, doesn't store raw facts. It stores your interpretation of this at the point that it happened. And that interpretation goes into the computer of this part of your brain. It now defines what's safe and what's unsafe, what's hard and what's easy. And if you're not aware of those interpretations, you may have no idea that your past is being recreated day after day in today's world of overwhelm. That's a big deal. And also, we're going to look at the most important. It's the action step. It's the action of how do you interrupt so you can work with your brain, your core motivation, the interpretations of the past. How do you interrupt it so you can move up to this part of the brain that lets you make decisions, execute them, discover, learn, and become all that you were created to be? These are just examples of the tools that are in easy, and they're essential. They didn't exist 5, 10, 15 years ago. They exist today because you need them today to handle the overwhelm that's become a constant companion. And throughout it all, easy is required. So on a daily basis, I see this in my office. I read it in our private Facebook groups. I read it in texts and emails. Clients who are saying, Cheryl, I'm just overwhelmed. I've had it up to here. I'm stressed. I have anxiety. I can't sleep. I was shocked to watch how insomnia has just gone like this. I realize what a blessing it is to sleep every night. Many people don't have that. Shallow breathing. That one's evident when I ask clients to take a breath and they go, their shoulders go up and down. That's not deep breathing. That's just how you breathe all the time. It's the one that keeps you stuck. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Memory issues, younger and younger ages. People can't remember. They can't focus. They don't have clarity. I also see people dealing with, let's keep going here, being puffy, overweight, the weight issues in the last 10 years, 15 years, especially with women, especially over 45. It's like it's astronomical. When you go to other countries, you're like, I can see the Americans because we have gotten so big. I also see that pain and headaches. Pain is a constant companion for most people. And there's an answer to that because pain is run by our brain. When it gets too stressed, the fastest way to get you to do less is to give you pain. So maybe you're earning that pain and it's time to let go of it. Maybe it's time to let go of headaches. Challenging relationships. You can't cut them all out, or for some of you, there'd be no people left. Some of you might be going, well, that's not such a bad idea. Well, what if those relationships could be something other than challenging? And debt today, astronomically high. The price of a house, the price of a car, the price of education. Debt is another constant companion that adds to the overwhelm. So what do people do with all of these challenges? They have noise bombarding them 24/7 because they focus on the symptoms. They're looking at the symptoms and they're trying to address a myriad of symptoms. We'll take this for this and this for this and exercise this to lose this. And you got to eat this food. You got to do paleo. No, you got to do keto. No, it's got to be vegetarian. Symptoms aren't what you want to focus on when you have a breakthrough. Symptoms lead to noise. You try to do everything. And my goodness, you can Google anything. So clearly, which one are you going to do? You're going to do all of them? No, you just listen to what everybody else says. Social media will tell you to do this. Your email box is full of people telling you what to do. You may be getting a text. Do you realize that today, unlike 10, 15, 20 years ago, you can be bombarded with more information that paralyzes you in the very thing you're trying to address, which is to create a change in your life. And that noise never stops. We didn't have this noise before. You know, for some of you my age, we remember when mail came in the mail, and that if we wanted to make a phone call, somebody had to be off the party line. And I remember when news was 1 hour at the end of the day. And if you wanted to watch TV, you got up and turned the channel. None of that exists today. Some of you don't even know what I'm talking about. We have noise bombarding us in every area of our life 24/7. That noise keeps us looping and looping in doing what we've always done. We try this and then it doesn't work because of that 1, 2, 3 week window. So then it's like, doesn't work for me, doesn't work for me, doesn't work for me. And eventually we think we are the failure. Noise can kill. It's a big deal. Old tools, noise, they're not enough to change from where you are today to what you would like to create, a you that you can enjoy. So, what are we going to do? We're going to look at one of the things that has a big impact on staying stuck repeating old patterns, and that's trauma. These are the kind of things I ask clients about when I do a case history, because I know there will be keys in that case history of what they have gone through that will impact how I'm going to help them get to where they want to go. Old accidents, surgeries, and deaths. Just a simple little example with me with a surgery, age probably about 5 or 6. I went in to have my tonsils taken out. I didn't really want to do it, but I didn't have a lot of say. And I remember the nuns telling me, "Oh, Cheryl, this is wonderful. You're going to go on a little trip, and when you come back from the trip, you can have all the ice cream you want." Something in me said, I didn't want that ice cream and I didn't want to go on that trip. And so I resisted. Took, now this is a 5-year-old, took 4 adult nuns to hold me down. Went through the surgery, ended up hemorrhaging, had to have a blood transfusion, almost died. What did I store as an interpretation of that surgery? My voice doesn't matter, and force will be used to make me do what I don't want to do. And I don't like doctors and I don't like hospitals. Interpretation, for many people, a tonsillectomy was no big deal. It was for me. Every one of these traumas are unique to you and how you experienced it. Maybe you've lost a job or a home or gone through bankruptcy. Maybe you've lost a business or had a business quit on you. Maybe you've gone through divorce. Maybe you've seen friendships that you thought were lifetime just disappear. Maybe you've gone through death of a loved one, death of parents, death of children. These are traumas. Maybe you've gone through failures. Failure at school. Maybe school wasn't easy. Maybe you hated to read. Maybe you never did well in school. Maybe your investments you thought were setting you up for a lifetime. Maybe you missed that retirement program when they changed it by 2 weeks, and what you thought would take care of you for all of your life, poof, it's gone. Those investments, retirement, school, failures, they can begin to define you if you let them. Maybe you've had disappointments in you. Maybe you felt disappointed that you just didn't do enough. Maybe others didn't do enough. And maybe God just didn't seem to be around when you were going through all of these traumas. And you may have other traumas, but those traumas, yes, they were an event, but you didn't store that event. You stored the interpretation of that event at the moment that you experienced it right here. And whenever you get triggered in a sense of being unsafe, then you go back to the original occurrence, because there is no time and space when it comes to emotions and what the brain stores. It's just the truth. It's the interpretation, and it's the program that your brain is using to determine safe and unsafe, hard or easy and hard in today's world. So, what other traumas might you have gone through? In our easy approach, I help people just not to dwell on them, but become aware of things that they may have gone through so that you can begin to neutralize the effect and reframe interpretations. You see, old tools are just band-aids. At best, they cover up a symptom, kind of like duct tape on the red light in your car. It didn't get rid of the problem, it got rid of one symptom. It's just like a bed of dandelions, unless you're growing them for health purposes. Let's say you want that perfect yard and you don't want dandelions or weeds. You can go out and cut them off with scissors, you can pull them, but they're going to come right back because every symptom has a root. What we want is to get to the root with the new tools that work in today's world. Neurology, core motivation, interpretations, interrupts, and letting it be so easy Your brain won't fight you. So, we've talked about this, but let's make sure you really understand it. Traumas, we don't store those as facts, we store it as interpretations. Let me give you an example. Probably about 7 or 8. Back in the old days when I went to school, there was a bus. They would pick us up and they would bring us home. Well, one fall um, evening, as I was coming back from school, there was lots of rain and mud. So the steps going in and out of the bus had lots of mud. And as I was going down the steps, the second step from the bottom, I still remember that, I slipped, fell out of the bus, and landed in a mud puddle. Do you know how embarrassing that is? All the kids are laughing. Oh, look at Cheryl. They thought it was funny. I was mortified. I was embarrassed. And I still vividly remember how cold the mud was. I remember how embarrassing it was to try and get up. I remember the emotions of what I felt at that point in time. So, how did it impact me? Oh, for years, I could never understand why I couldn't see the bottom 2 stairs on a staircase. You see, when we've gone through a trauma and our interpretation, our brain, my brain said, bottom 2 steps are the problem. So if she doesn't see them, she doesn't have a problem. Now, that's not logical, which would happen up here. It's the brain says the bottom 2 steps were the problem. So it prevented me from seeing. Our filters and interpretations can help us to see or to miss what's really, really important. Well, fast forward into my 50s. I started working with a coach because I am teachable and I am coachable. And she said, Cheryl, we're going to help you. Because, see, I had started exercising and I was only putting on weight. I wasn't losing weight and it was getting harder and harder. I didn't understand neurology back then, but I did recognize a good coach. And so she started helping me. One of the things she noticed through kinesiology testing is that stairs and walking were a problem. So she used some of the new resources that were available back then, a laser. She used different coaching methods. And we got to where it wasn't as big of a problem. Fast forward to about 5 years ago when I discovered neurology. All of a sudden, I learned how to work with my body and reframe how my brain was experiencing stairs and movement and falling. I improved my capacity to catch myself and to get on the floor and get back up. Now, let's move forward to this past June. Coming around the corner to get some supplies for a painting project, there was some wire fence that had fallen over. I didn't see it in my lower peripheral vision, and I tripped and I did a face plant. But here's what happens. What happened in that situation is my brain, literally, when you're in the midst of correcting, time slows down. So, in the process of being from here to here, time slowed down, and I was aware of my brain going, okay, you know how to catch yourself. Catch yourself with your hands, bend your knees, cushion the fall, and go on down. You know how to do this. It's exactly what I did. And as I was literally face planted on concrete, I was aware of my neighbor, who's an RN, retired, having absolutely a panic attack. Oh, you've got a concussion. You've got this, you've got this, you've got this. And it was like, no, I don't, because I'd done a little scan. My head turned, my eyes were working. I knew how to easily get up. I was okay. I knew that taking on what she said wouldn't serve me because it's not where I was at. I knew how to assess my body. I said, I know Forrest isn't here, Anna's not here, so if you don't see me in a day or so, come check on me. So I went inside and I knew exactly how to reset myself. That's part of easy. Learn how to reset after you've gone through a trauma and to change the interpretation. I came out of that fall at 65, just before my 66th birthday, in great shape. Even a year ago, that kind of a fall would have traumatized me. I'd have gone victim. I'd have reverted to old interpretations, and it would have impacted my entire week, 2 or 3 weeks. I was seeing clients, in fact, that day, we had friends over for lunch. I'd already fixed the lunch, so I figured we might as well eat it. I knew what to do. My week just continued on, all because I learned how to reframe. And now I am so excited that I know how to fall and how to catch myself. Why is that a big deal? One of the leading contributors to death after 60 is falling. So a face plant on concrete, I used easy and all of these new tools, and it didn't wipe me out like the much smaller, less traumatic fall into mud as a 7-year-old. So these interpretations, just like mine with the fall, interpretations at the moment of a trauma or a loss or a failure get stored in this part of our brain as truth. It gets stored as a program that from then on, unless it's changed and reframed, defines safe and unsafe. It determines whether your brain will let you do something or if it's going to give you the automatic response of increased all kinds of inflammation, pain, all the shutdowns we talked about earlier. So I now know, both for myself and with clients, if they're having certain symptoms, those are the indicators of the triggers being pulled that say your brain thinks you're not safe. Just dealing with the triggers and the symptoms don't get you out of the programming that has become hardwired into your brain. So what we want to do is become aware so we can change it. You want to be aware of those traumas. You want to be aware of things that have happened to you and what you've been interpreting so that you can interrupt and change it. So, have you ever fallen? Have you ever had a surgery? Have you ever had a loss? Have you ever been fired from a job? Have you ever had finances disappear on you? Have you ever had a person disappear on you? Those are traumas that have been interpreted and they're now stored here. If you don't change them with the tools designed to work in today's world, they're stuck to you for a long time. Your brain has two basic functions. Actually, your brain is pretty amazing, but we're just going to talk about two tonight. We're going to talk about two parts and two functions. The first one we're going to talk about is your frontal lobe up here. This is where you make decisions, execute decisions. It's instead of back here where you think it's a good idea, but you never do anything with it. This is also where you play, create, discover, learn. It's where you enjoy life. It's where you hear God's voice. It's an amazing part of your brain. It's where you have conscious thought. It's where you make decisions. It's where you discover. But there's another part of our brain, our subconscious, our brainstem, our cerebellum, our RAS, our reticular activating system. This part of our brain, when I point back here, just know this is a part of the brain I'm talking about. Not only is it subconscious, so you're not always aware of it, but it's where all your trauma interpretations are stored and the emotions that went with every single interpretation. It's what determines safe or unsafe, not your logic. Logic doesn't determine safe or unsafe. That's the role of this part of your brain. And when it's considered unsafe, that's when automatic behavior and automatic reactions happen every single time. And when these two are in conflict, your logic says it's fine. This says, not safe, not safe. When they're in conflict, this always wins. Isn't that worth knowing so that you can change things? Because if you don't, what you've experienced, your interpretations, the old emotions that are programmed here stick to you and you carry them into each and every day. You can't change those automatic reactions, but you can learn to interrupt them. And as you learn to release all that trauma, it's important to know that you're unique. Not only are you unique, your motivation is unique, that core motivation. Your experiences, your past, you are unique. And if you want to move out of what was uniquely damaging into becoming your unique you today, it absolutely requires easy. Now, when you're releasing this old, it's really important that you understand this. You're not releasing something important. You're learning how, in your unique way, to let go of the struggle that costs you energy, that costs you time, that costs you life, and it keeps you stuck repeating the past. So you have a choice: old tools and noise, or new tools for today, new tools and wisdom. Easy so that your brain accepts it, and wisdom from your wisdom coach so that you know the next most useful step to take you from where you are to where you want to be. So let's look at core motivation. This one is out there. It's been out there for quite a while. Unlike personality styles, which teaches you how other people perceive you, this is how you're wired on the inside. It's your personal motivation, it's your unique patterns. It helps you to understand what triggers you to react either automatically or know how to get up here and choose a response. It can very much calm your stress reaction if you know how to be in the strength of your core motivation. And it can help you appreciate your growth style because it's unique to you and not like everybody else. And I know for me, it can greatly help you to reduce judging others as well as yourself. These are two books that I have found incredibly helpful. One is Enneagram Made Easy. It's for people that don't really like to read. It's got lots of pictures and graphics and fun illustrations, what you might have been like as a child, what you're like as a parent, what you would never do. Every time I read that one with mine, I just laugh. When I read Forrest, it's like, oh, that is so true. So this one is fun. It's easy, but it's a little bit limiting. And so I found this book to be a little more substantial and a little bit more thorough. The Road Back to You. Both books are excellent. Both are available online. I use those. I've got several other books. And of course, I've listened to podcasts because I wanted to understand core motivations for myself and for clients. Little caveat. I don't think the online questionnaires work as effectively. I've seen people do it 2 or 3 times and get 2 or 3 answers. I think as you read these, and next key, do it based on your 20s. My first frustration was I was trying to do it for now, but when I did it based on my 20s, which I don't remember a lot of, but doing it based on 20s, oh my goodness, it was obvious that I am the one perfectionist. So, when you work with your brain and you're discovering core motivation, this can actually be a game changer. Now, Forrest and I have been married almost 35 years. We've been through personality training, personality profiles. I've done that and taught it for over 40 years. So I really understood it. I really helped Forrest understand his. We've been through all kinds of motivational courses. I've been through counseling and had people work with me and coaching and prayer and all kinds of things. But one of the things I never understood before Enneagram was one of the key differences between Forrest and me. I knew there were a lot, many of them would work through. But when it came to business, there was one that was just glaring. I would get the big vision. I would know the checklist. I would know what we needed to do. And I had total focus. And so we'd sit down in our business meeting planning, and Forrest would nod his head, yes, yes. And I'd go very fast because that's what I tend to do. And I'd think, wow, we're in agreement. Because when I say I'm going to do something, that's exactly what I'm going to do to the T. Forrest would walk out the door and go, overwhelm, overwhelm. What happens with overwhelm? Start shutting down and you go into your weakness. And he's a 9. So what does a weakness do? They fall asleep. They procrastinate. They find lots of other things to do. And I'd go, oh, well, he didn't like what I put together. Let's come up with something new. And we would repeat that over and over and over. When we got clarity on this, and we got clarity because it was important to Forrest because our daughter liked it. So that was his motivation. Well, why does Anna like it? What could I learn if I found out what I was? When he found out the 9, he looked at the weaknesses and he was talking to Anna and said, I'm just a dysfunctional 9. And she said, Dad, you were the best dad possible for me. Because one of the strengths of a 9 is to be a great parent. Last thing Anna needed was 2 1s as parents. What she had was the best dad. I'm learning to be a great mom. So Enneagram has helped us understand core motivation individually, in our marriage, and in our business. It's been a game changer because now we're working in our strengths and we know the road bumps that tell us when we're getting off course. And in creating an extraordinary you, I help you to understand what yours is. I help you to understand your road bumps. I help you to understand how to use the strengths of your core motivation, but also be aware of where it could go when you're in overwhelm, which means your brain's going to resist being in your strengths because they're no longer safe. So isn't it time to interrupt the pattern so you don't have to keep repeating where you have been for years, maybe decades. What's another? What I want to do here is give you some very specific interrupt tools, because when you're stuck back here, automatically reacting to perceived threats or triggers based on your past, there is automatic health reactions happening, automatic relational communication, thinking, what you can see and what you can't see, all of that is happening. And it's going to stay happening until you know how to interrupt and get up here. Some of the most valuable tools in the easy approach is teaching you interrupt tools so that you can play with them and apply them when you need them. Because when you need them, everybody else is probably not there. It was because I knew interrupt tools that allowed me to fall without injury or death. These are life-saving. So let's look at a couple of tools. Breathing is most important because when you're in automatic, you go into shallow breathing or holding your breath. And as soon as you do that, the brain goes red alert, red alert, red alert. Where's the problem? Where's the problem? So learning to practice and slow your breathing can change everything, because relaxed breathing interrupts interpretation. The brain goes, oh, okay, something changed. So find a little straw. Fast food, that may be where you find it. I found this at the grocery store. Because what I want to teach you is breathing in through your nose and out through a straw requires that you start using abdominal breathing instead of your shoulders going up and down. Like, that's not deep breathing. That only keeps you stuck back here. So in this one, breathing in and out. Now, if you'd like more information on that and me doing a full demonstration, go out to our YouTube site, CherylTownsleyTV.com, and you'll see a great video on straw breathing and another little tool that you can use if you have trouble swallowing. So breathing is a super easy interrupt tool. Set a timer so you can practice doing it every couple, 3 hours. It takes maybe 30 seconds. It's not going to cost you a whole day. Another one is acceptance. I use this a lot. For lots of reasons. If I get upset, automatic reaction to something Forrest says, or I feel like I didn't do a good enough job. Acceptance is such an easy tool. And what you're going to do is right below your collarbones, this is a big drain for the lymphatic system, you're just going to rub in an outward circular motion and say, I accept blank completely as they are, with all their strengths and all their weaknesses. So that might look like, I accept Cheryl completely as she is, with all of her strengths and all of her weaknesses. I accept Cheryl completely as she is, with all of her strengths and all of her weaknesses. I accept Cheryl completely as she is, with all of her strengths and all of her weaknesses. And then you do what's called a karate chop, midway right here, 3 or 4 times. Now, I don't know if you noticed it, but I noticed my breathing relaxed, my voice calmed, because in the midst of a webinar, it's easy to let stress escalate. It's a way to bring it down. I can do it accepting Forrest for something he may have said. I could accept video shoots. I could accept road trips. Whatever it is that you can feel tension and overwhelm increase, you can do acceptance. Now, here's the key. When you do this, you are not saying that you like it. It doesn't mean you condone it. Doesn't mean you agree with it. You're just telling your brain it's not a trigger. And your brain, because this part of the brain doesn't think, it just goes, okay. That's so cool. It's like a 2-year-old. You just distract it and it goes, okay, let her go up here. It's a great little interrupt. Again, it takes maybe 45 seconds. Learn to ask questions. If I'm in the middle of being triggered and I have a feeling show up based on old interpretations, one that I used to deal with a lot is, you are so stupid. Why couldn't you do it right the first time? Big one. And I have learned several other tools, but when it comes to the questions, I'll go, well, what's actually going on? What's going on in the environment? How are other people responding? Well, there's nobody there but you. Then I asked 2 questions that a dear friend of mine taught me to ask several years ago. Because I would go to her, I'm feeling helpless, I'm feeling this, 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 this. And she would just say, well, Cheryl, is it true? As soon as she would say that, I'd go, well, of course not. It's just how I feel. See, feelings aren't necessarily true. They're just feelings, and sometimes they don't serve you. And then she would say, well, God, is it true? Is Cheryl stupid? And I'd go, well, of course I'm not stupid. He didn't make stupid people. So by asking questions, it's starting to interrupt, interrupt, interrupt. And as you ask questions, this part of the brain goes, I don't answer questions, I just react. The very process of asking questions is an interrupt to get you up here. So wouldn't it be helpful to know useful questions? That's part of what easy teaches you. Because if it's not easy, it doesn't work. And some questions aren't easy. They're like the why and the whens. Those aren't useful, so they're not part of easy. Teaching you useful questions, that's part of easy. An extraordinary you equips you to enjoy life even in the midst of challenges. So no matter what's going on out there in the world, no matter how somebody else is acting, no matter what's going on in politics or at work or on social media, the more you learn how to create margin and space to interrupt when overwhelm starts to show its face, to get up to here, you learn how to choose how you will show up so you can become extraordinary no matter what's going on around you. That's priceless. That's a gift. So, the easy approach is your answer for new tools for today's overwhelm and challenges. It's ready for you, and it's delivered to you every single week. And here's what you get when you participate in Easy, which includes creating an extraordinary you. I bring you weekly video teaching and notes, and they're meant to be easy. They're short because I know your attention span may not be what it used to be. And there's always notes in case you want to refer back. Weekly encouragements. Now, because Easy has been around for over 3 years, I've written over 150 of those. And they come into my email box every week. And every time I read them, I go, oh, that's exactly what I needed today. Encouragement matters because many of us never hear an encouraging word all week. Well, that's not the case in Easy. Encouragement matters because that's what connects you to courage. There's a private Facebook group where I mentor, where I answer questions, where I have facilitators who also help. But I'm showing up because that's my opportunity to be a virtual coach and mentor no matter what's going on. Plus, it doesn't stop there. It gives you bonus classes, your best 24-hour day. That has a great manual. I refer to it on a regular basis with clients. How to turn off the cortisol bath. That's important because that may be why you have that belly fat, flat tire around you. Bach flowers to the rescue. One of the best hidden little secrets, inexpensive, available all around the world, safe for pregnant women, babies, children, adults, older people, and pets. They work. Learn how to use them. Overcome cravings, because cravings are symptoms. Get to the root of what the body is actually needing. And balance your hormones. Women, if you're over 45, check this out. Price of admission is worth this. And let your brain be easy and learn how to use it so you don't lose it. Overcome overwhelm, discover and live your values. All of these are classes in the library on Easy, and you have free access to them. Or you could go purchase them and it'd be over $500, but that's not easy. That would be dumb. So you have options on how to participate in Easy. We've made that even easy. So you can try us out for $1 for 1 week, experience the videos, experience the classes, experience the encouragement. And if you don't like it, you can even get your dollar back. But if you're going, wow, this is the best thing I've ever seen, then you can participate for $20 a month. There is no contract. It's 100% guaranteed. So at any point in time, you can stop and resume later if you want to. Our desire is to make everything we do easy and risk-free because we understand the value of working with your brain. Let it be safe. Let it be easy. Give people options so they can get up here, make decisions, execute them, and create an extraordinary you. So let's get started. What do? You go to theeasyapproach.com theeasyapproach.com. Theeasyapproach.com. There's where you can purchase a program for $1 or for the monthly subscription. Isn't it time to be extraordinary, the very best you, and that you can live that no matter what's going on in today's world? It's time. Let's get started. Go to the Easy Approach and join the Easy community and learn how to be an extraordinary you.